The fluorescent lights of Premier Market reflected off polished floors as Simone pushed her cart through the produce section. Her 3-year-old twins sat in the double seat, reaching for strawberries with sticky fingers. She was comparing organic apple prices when she felt eyes on her back. That familiar crawling sensation made her turn around. Brandon stood 15 feet away, his mouth slightly open, a wire basket hanging from his hand. His eyes moved from her face to the children, then back again. Simone watched his expression shift from surprise to confusion to something darker. She knew this moment would come eventually. The city was big but not infinite. Simone. His voice cut through the quiet morning shopping atmosphere. Several other customers glanced over. He walked toward her with that confident stride she used to know so well. I almost didn't recognize you. You look different. She did look different. 3 years of building a life from rubble had transformed her. The defeated woman he divorced no longer existed. Simone placed a protective hand on the shopping cart handle, positioning herself between Brandon and her children. Brandon. She kept her voice neutral, steady. Her heart hammered but her face remained calm. Years of business negotiations had taught her to control her expressions. His eyes kept returning to the twins. Noah was gnawing on a teething toy while Naomi played with her shoelaces. Brandon's face twisted with something between disbelief and calculation. She could see his mind working through possibilities, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. So you moved on fast, he said, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow. Got yourself a whole new family. Must have been easy to replace me. His tone dripped with mock sympathy. I always wondered how you were doing. Heard you were struggling after the divorce. Living in some tiny apartment across town. Simone felt anger flash hot through her chest but kept her expression smooth. He wanted a reaction. He wanted her to feel small again, to remember all those nights she cried over medical bills and negative pregnancy tests while he was building a future with Candace. I'm doing fine, she said simply. Better than fine, actually. Brandon stepped closer, lowering his voice with false intimacy. Look, I know the divorce was hard on you. But you understand why it had to happen, right? I wanted children. You couldn't give me that. I had to move on with someone who could give me a family. He gestured vaguely toward her cart. I'm glad you found someone else who was okay with adopting or whatever this is. The assumption hung in the air between them. Simone felt Noah's small hand pat her arm, his way of seeking attention. She smiled down at him, then looked back at Brandon. This moment required precision. She had played this scenario out in her mind 100 times over the past 3 years. These are my children, she said clearly. Noah and Naomi. They're not adopted. Brandon's face flickered with irritation. Right, but obviously not biologically yours. I mean, we tried for 5 years. Every doctor said you were the problem. The chances were basically zero. He spoke with the certainty of someone who had never questioned his own narrative. Simone pulled her phone from her purse with one hand, keeping the other on the cart. She pulled up a photo and held it out to him. This was taken at their second birthday party. 6 months ago. He glanced at the screen, then back at her face. I don't understand what you're trying to prove. You found someone, had kids through whatever means. Good for you. I'm happy you figured it out. They're 3 years old, Brandon. Simone spoke slowly, letting each word land. Actually 3 years and 2 months. Do the math. She watched his face change as comprehension dawned. The smugness drained away, replaced by something close to panic. He grabbed her phone, zooming in on the photo, studying the children's faces. His hand started to shake. That's impossible, he whispered. The doctor said you couldn't. We tried everything. It was your problem. They confirmed it was your problem. The doctor said it was unlikely, Simone corrected, taking her phone back. They never said impossible. And apparently stress was a major factor. Once you left and the pressure disappeared, my body figured it out. She paused, watching him process. I got pregnant about 2 weeks before you served me divorce papers. Brandon stepped backward, nearly colliding with an elderly woman reaching for lettuce. His face had gone pale. You're lying. This is some kind of game. Those aren't my kids. DNA doesn't lie, Brandon. But you signed away all your rights when you walked out. You made it very clear you wanted nothing to do with me or any potential future we might have had. Simone felt a strange calm settle over her. 3 years of rehearsing this moment, and it was finally happening. I want a paternity test, he demanded, his voice rising. Right now. Those are my children if what you're saying is true. You can't just keep them from me. Naomi started to whimper at the raised voices. Simone immediately shifted into mom mode, lifting her daughter from the cart and bouncing her gently. Shush, sweetie. It's okay. We're going to check out now. Don't you dare walk away from me. Brandon grabbed the shopping cart, stopping her movement. If those are my kids, I have rights. You can't just hide them from me for 3 years and pretend I don't exist. You pretended I didn't exist the day you chose Candace. Simone's voice was ice. You told me I was broken. You told the mediator you wanted a clean break with no ties. You got exactly what you asked for. A store manager approached, sensing the tension. Is everything all right here? Fine, Simone said quickly. I was just leaving. She pulled the cart from Brandon's grip and moved toward the checkout lanes. Her hands trembled slightly as she lifted Noah back into the seat. Brandon followed her, hovering close as she unloaded her groceries. Simone, wait. We need to talk about this. You can't just drop this bomb and walk away. Watch me. She swiped her card, gathered her bags, and headed for the exit. Brandon trailed behind her to the parking lot, his voice getting more desperate with each step. I have money now. Good money. I can provide for them. They deserve to know their father. He grabbed her arm as she reached her car. Please. Just let me explain. Simone turned, and he must have seen something in her eyes that made him release his grip. You had 5 years to be a father. You chose to walk away. My children have everything they need, and none of it came from you. But I didn't know, he pleaded. If I had known you were pregnant, everything would have been different. Would it? Simone buckled Noah into his car seat. You left because you thought I was defective. Because you wanted a family more than you wanted me. Now you know I can have children, so suddenly I'm worth reconsidering? She closed the car door and faced him fully. I'm not a broken toy you can pick back up when you realize it still works. Brandon ran his hands through his hair, looking genuinely distressed for the first time. That's not what I meant. I made mistakes, okay? I admit that. But those are my children. My blood. You can't expect me to just walk away now that I know. You already walked away. Simone opened her driver's side door. 3 years ago. With divorce papers and a new woman who you said could give you what I couldn't. How is Candace, by the way? Did she give you that family you wanted so badly? Brandon's jaw tightened. That's none of your business. Exactly. Simone slid into her seat. My life stopped being your business the day you signed those papers. Stay away from me and my children, Brandon. I mean it. She started the engine and backed out of the space, leaving him standing in the parking lot. In her rearview mirror, she saw him pull out his phone, probably already calling his lawyer. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tight enough to hurt. Mama okay? Noah asked from the back seat. Simone took a deep breath and forced a smile into her voice. Mama's perfect, baby. How about we go home and make pancakes? As she drove away from Premier Market, 3 years of carefully constructed peace began to crack. The confrontation she had dreaded and somehow anticipated was over, but she knew with absolute certainty it was only the beginning. Brandon would not let this go. He would push and prod and demand and threaten. She had seen that determination in his eyes. But she had changed in 3 years. The woman who had begged him to stay, who had blamed herself for their fertility struggles, who had signed the divorce papers with shaking hands no longer existed. In her place was someone who had built a business from nothing, who had delivered twins alone, who had created a life worth protecting. Brandon wanted a second chance at fatherhood. He wanted to rewrite history and play the role of devoted dad. But Simone knew the truth. He did not want her back. He did not love her. He just could not stand the idea that she had succeeded without him, that she had created the family he had told her she was incapable of having. As she pulled into her driveway, the beautiful colonial house she had bought with her own money rose before her. She had earned every brick, every window, every inch of the life she had built. And she would protect it with everything she had. Noah and Naomi chattered happily as she unbuckled them, blissfully unaware that the man in the parking lot was their biological father. Blissfully unaware that their mother's past had just collided with their present. Simone carried them inside, her mind already racing ahead to phone calls she would need to make. Her lawyer. Her accountant. Her business partner. The fortress she had built around her family needed reinforcement because Brandon was coming. She could feel it in her bones. But this time she was ready. 3 years and 4 months earlier, Simone had sat in Dr. Patterson's office holding Brandon's hand. The fertility specialist had kind eyes, but her words cut like knives. The test results spread across the desk told a story Simone had feared for months. Your hormone levels suggest diminished ovarian reserve, Dr. Patterson said gently. Combined with the irregular cycles and previous test results, conception without intervention would be difficult. Not impossible, but the probability is low. Brandon's hand had tightened around hers. They had been trying for 2 years at that point. 2 years of temperature charts and ovulation kits and timed intimacy that felt more clinical than romantic. 2 years of negative pregnancy tests and Simone's monthly tears. "What are our options?" Brandon asked. His voice sounded strained. Dr. Patterson went through the list. Hormone treatments, IVF, donor eggs. Each option came with price tags that made Simone's stomach turn. Their insurance covered almost none of it. Brandon worked as a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company. Simone did freelance graphic design. They were comfortable but not wealthy. "We'll figure it out," Brandon had said in the car. But his voice lacked conviction. They drove home in silence. That night was the first time he slept in the guest room, claiming he had early meetings and did not want to wake her. The distance grew slowly like ice forming on a lake. At first, Simone told herself it was just stress. They were both processing the diagnosis. They needed time to adjust. But weeks turned into months and Brandon pulled further away. He stopped reaching for her hand. He worked late more often. He picked fights over small things. Their 5th wedding anniversary came and went with a quiet dinner that felt more like a business meeting than a celebration. Simone had worn the blue dress Brandon once said made her eyes sparkle. He barely looked at her. "Maybe we should take a break from trying," he said over dessert. "The pressure isn't healthy." Simone had agreed, relieved and heartbroken in equal measure. The constant focus on conception had drained all joy from their intimacy. She thought stepping back might help them reconnect. She was wrong. 2 weeks later, she found the text messages. She had not meant to snoop. Brandon left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered. It buzzed with a message from Candace, his coworker. Simone only glanced at it, but what she saw made her open the full conversation. "Missing you already. Last night was amazing." Simone scrolled up with shaking hands. Months of messages. Flirtation that escalated to explicit plans. Hotel receipts. Photos she wished she could unsee. Her husband had been living a double life for at least 4 months, maybe longer. She confronted him that night. He did not even try to deny it. Instead, he got angry, defensive. He said Simone had become obsessed with pregnancy, that she made him feel like a failure every month when conception did not happen. He said Candace made him feel wanted as a man, not just as a sperm donor. "This is your fault," he shouted. "If you could just get pregnant like a normal woman, none of this would have happened. But no, you're broken, and I'm supposed to just accept that I'll never have kids because you can't do the one thing women are supposed to be able to do." The words hit her like physical blows. Simone had sat down on the couch, her legs unable to hold her. "So what now?" "I want a divorce." Brandon said it with such finality. "I deserve a family. Candace can give me that. You can't. It's that simple." "We could still try treatments," Simone heard herself say, hating how small her voice sounded. "We haven't even attempted IVF." "I'm not wasting years and thousands of dollars on maybe," Brandon snapped. "I want out. I've already talked to a lawyer." The next 3 months were a blur of paperwork and arguments. Brandon moved in with Candace immediately. He fought Simone on every asset, every piece of furniture, every detail of the settlement. He claimed she had wasted their savings on fertility consultations and treatments. He wanted her to buy out his half of the house, knowing she could not afford it. He wanted to walk away clean, unencumbered, ready to start fresh. Simone's lawyer was sympathetic but realistic. "You could fight harder, but it will cost you more in legal fees than you'll gain. Sometimes the fastest exit is the best exit, even if it's not fair." In the end, Simone agreed to sell their house and split the proceeds. She got the older car, half their savings and some furniture. Brandon got everything else. He wanted no spousal support and offered none. He wanted nothing to do with her ever again. He made the mediator include specific language in the agreement confirming no ongoing obligations or connections between them. The divorce was finalized on a cold Tuesday in February. Simone signed the papers in a conference room that smelled like old coffee and broken promises. She walked out into gray sleet feeling hollowed out, like someone had scooped out her insides and left only skin. She moved into a tiny one-bedroom apartment across town. The walls were thin. The heater rattled. The bathroom faucet dripped no matter how tight she twisted the handle. But it was hers, paid for with her half of the house money and her freelance income. For weeks, Simone barely functioned. She took design jobs but completed them mechanically, without passion. She ate cereal for dinner most nights, too tired to cook. She ignored calls from friends who wanted to check on her. She existed rather than lived. Her period was late in April, but she barely noticed. Her cycles had always been irregular. When the fatigue became overwhelming, she assumed it was depression. When her breasts became tender, she figured it was hormonal fluctuations. When she finally threw up 3 mornings in a row, she thought she had caught a stomach bug. It was her friend Rachel who finally dragged her to buy a pregnancy test. Rachel had been one of the few people who stuck around through the divorce, who brought groceries and sat with Simone through crying Jags and forced her to shower when she stopped caring. "Just take the test," Rachel said, holding out the box. "Rule it out so we can figure out what's actually wrong." Simone took the test expecting nothing. 5 years of negative results had trained her not to hope. She set the stick on the bathroom counter and walked away, not wanting to watch the window. 2 minutes later, Rachel screamed. Simone ran back to find her friend holding the test with shaking hands. 2 pink lines. Clear and undeniable. "That's impossible," Simone whispered. She grabbed the box, checking the instructions 3 times. "It's wrong. The test is defective." Rachel drove her to a drugstore and bought 4 more tests from different brands. Simone took them all. Every single one came back positive. They sat on the bathroom floor together, surrounded by positive pregnancy tests, and Simone felt something crack open inside her chest. "It's his," she said numbly. "The timing. It has to be Brandon's." "Are you going to tell him?" Rachel asked carefully. Simone thought about Brandon's face when he told her she was broken. She thought about the divorce papers that specified no ongoing connection. She thought about Candace, probably already pregnant with the family Brandon wanted so desperately. "No." The word came out firm, certain. He walked away. He got exactly what he wanted. "This baby is mine." The decision brought a strange sense of peace. For the first time since finding those text messages, Simone felt like she could breathe. She was terrified about single motherhood, about money, about whether she could handle raising a child alone. But underneath the fear was something else. Something that felt like hope. She went to her first prenatal appointment alone. The ultrasound technician was cheerful, chatting about the weather while moving the wand across Simone's belly. Then she paused, moved the wand again, pressed buttons and took measurements. "Well," the technician said with a smile, "this explains why your hormone levels are so high. Congratulations. You're having twins." Simone stared at the screen where 2 tiny blobs pulsed with heartbeats. 2 babies. The doctors said conception was unlikely. Brandon said she was broken. And here she was, 6 months after the divorce was finalized, carrying twins. She laughed then, sitting on the exam table with gel on her stomach. She laughed until tears streamed down her face, until the technician looked concerned. It was not funny. Nothing about the situation was funny. But the absurdity of it, the cosmic joke of it, overwhelmed her. Brandon had left her because she could not have children. And now she was having 2. The first trimester was brutal. Simone spent mornings hunched over the toilet, afternoons fighting exhaustion, and evenings trying to complete enough freelance work to pay rent. The tiny apartment felt even smaller when she was too nauseous to leave it. Rachel helped when she could, but she worked long hours as a nurse. Simone's parents were gone, her mother from cancer 5 years earlier, her father from a heart attack 2 years before that. She had cousins scattered across the country but no one close enough to lean on. The divorce had stripped away the mutual friends who had been more Brandon's than hers. Money was the constant shadow. The freelance graphic design work covered basics but barely. Every prenatal appointment meant calculating whether she could skip buying groceries that week. Every maternity item she needed meant anxiety about the dwindling balance in her bank account. Simone applied for better-paying design positions but her portfolio was outdated and her interview skills rusty. She got rejection emails that thanked her for her interest and wished her well in her future endeavors. She wanted to scream that her future endeavors included raising twins alone and could they please just give her a chance. By her second trimester, the morning sickness faded but the anxiety intensified. She lay awake at night doing math that never worked out. Daycare costs, formula, diapers, medical bills. Her 1-bedroom apartment did not have space for 2 cribs. She would need a bigger place eventually, but how could she afford that when she could barely manage rent now? The thought of contacting Brandon crossed her mind during those sleepless nights. He was their biological father. Maybe he deserved to know. Maybe he would help financially. Maybe it was wrong to keep this from him. But then she would remember his words. "You're broken. I deserve a family. I want nothing to do with you ever again." The man who said those things did not deserve her children. He had made his choice. She was making hers. In her 5th month, desperation drove Simone to start an anonymous blog about her situation. She called it Unexpected Miracles, and wrote about navigating pregnancy after divorce, rebuilding life from scratch and preparing for twins alone. She poured her fear and hope into those posts, never expecting anyone to read them. But people did read them. A few at first, then dozens, then hundreds. Comments flooded in from other women who had been through similar situations, who offered encouragement and advice. Simone started writing more frequently, finding relief in the community she accidentally created. A parenting brand reached out in her 6th month. They wanted to sponsor a post. The payment was small, but it covered that month's rent. More sponsors followed. Baby product companies sent free samples in exchange for honest reviews. Simone's blog became a lifeline both financially and emotionally. She used her graphic design skills to improve the blog's appearance, to create shareable graphics for social media. She learned about SEO and engagement metrics. The blog posts led to freelance social media management for small businesses. That work paid better than design, and she could do it from home with flexible hours. By her 7th month, Simone was earning twice what she had made before the pregnancy. She found a 2-bedroom apartment in a safer neighborhood and signed the lease with shaking hands. She bought 2 cribs on sale and assembled them herself, following YouTube tutorials. She joined a single mother support group that met every Tuesday. The support group changed everything. These were women who understood without needing explanation. They shared resources, swapped baby items, and provided the emotional support Simone desperately needed. For the first time since the divorce, she did not feel alone. Simone met her birth coach, Tanya, through the support group. Tanya was a doula who offered her services on a sliding scale. She came to appointments, answered questions at 3 in the morning, and helped Simone create a birth plan that felt manageable for a single mother expecting twins. The 3rd trimester brought new challenges. Simone's body ached constantly from carrying 2 babies. She could not sleep comfortably. Her ankles swelled. Simple tasks like putting on shoes became monumental efforts. But her business continued to grow. She hired her first contractor, another freelance designer, to help manage the workload. 3 weeks before her due date, Simone packed her hospital bag and wrote out instructions for Rachel, who would be her primary support person during labor. She arranged for neighbors to water her plants. She stocked her freezer with pre-made meals. She did everything she could to prepare for the unknown. She also wrote a letter to Brandon. Not to send, just to write. She told him about the pregnancy, about the twins, about how she had built a life despite everything. She told him he had been wrong about her. She told him she was grateful he left because it forced her to become someone stronger than the woman he married. She sealed the letter and put it in a drawer, knowing she would never mail it. 2 days past her due date, contractions started at 4 in the morning. Rachel drove her to the hospital while Simone breathed through pain that felt like her body was splitting apart. The labor was long, complicated by the twins' positions. After 16 hours, the doctor recommended a C-section. Simone agreed through a haze of exhaustion. They wheeled her into surgery and she stared at the ceiling lights while medical staff moved around her. This was the moment she had fought for, that doctors said was unlikely, that Brandon said was impossible. She was about to become a mother. Noah came first, screaming his arrival with impressive lung capacity. Naomi followed 3 minutes later, smaller and quieter but healthy. The nurses cleaned them and placed them on Simone's chest, one on each side. She looked down at their tiny scrunched faces and felt love so fierce it actually hurt. "You did it," Rachel whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Simone, you did it." Recovery was difficult. Simone's body needed time to heal from major surgery while 2 newborns needed feeding every 2 hours. She barely slept that first week. The pain medication made her dizzy. She cried from frustration when she could not figure out why Noah was screaming or when Naomi would not latch properly. But Rachel stayed. The support group brought meals. Tanya came twice a day to check on them. Slowly, painfully, Simone found a rhythm. She learned to nurse both babies at once. She created schedules and systems. She discovered reserves of strength she did not know existed. A month after the twins were born, Simone sat in her living room at 3 in the morning. Noah was feeding while Naomi slept in her arms. The apartment was messy. Simone wore the same pajamas she had worn for 2 days. Her hair was in a tangled bun. She had purple circles under her eyes. She took a selfie, not because she looked good but because she wanted to remember this moment. The caption for her blog read, "This is what strength looks like. Messy and tired and covered in spit up. And absolutely beautiful." The post went viral. Major parenting sites picked it up. News outlets requested interviews. Overnight, Simone's blog grew from hundreds of followers to thousands. Brands started offering serious money for partnerships. Her inbox flooded with collaboration requests. She hired a business manager to help handle the opportunities. She trademarked her blog name. She started offering social media consulting specifically for new mothers trying to build businesses from home. The money exceeded anything she had earned while married to Brandon. By the time Noah and Naomi were 6 months old, Simone had launched her own digital marketing agency focused on authentic parenting brands. She hired 3 employees and moved operations to a small office space. She still worked from home most days, but having the separation helped her set boundaries. She bought a house when the twins were 15 months old. Nothing extravagant, but it had 3 bedrooms, a fenced yard, and it was hers. She cried signing the mortgage papers, remembering the apartment she had fled to after the divorce. The distance she had traveled felt impossible. The blog evolved beyond pregnancy and early motherhood. Simone wrote about building a business, healing from betrayal, and discovering identity beyond marriage. Her authenticity resonated with women facing similar crossroads. The community she built became a powerful force, supporting each other through divorces and job losses and unexpected pregnancies. Simone still thought about Brandon sometimes. She wondered if he knew about her success, if mutual acquaintances had told him. She wondered if he was happy with Candace, if they had the family he wanted so desperately. But the thoughts no longer carried the sharp edge of pain. They were distant, like remembering a movie she watched years ago. She dated occasionally but kept it casual. Her life was full with 2 toddlers and a growing business. Romance felt like something for a future version of herself, one with more time and energy. She was content with where she was. The twins' 3rd birthday party was at a local park. Simone invited the support group families, her employees, and their small circle of friends. Noah and Naomi ran around with frosting on their faces, delighted by the chaos. Rachel helped Simone set up the picnic tables and brought drinks. "Can you believe it's been 3 years?" Rachel asked, watching the twins. Simone shook her head. 3 years since the divorce. 3 years since discovering she was pregnant. 3 years of building something from nothing. Honestly? No. It feels like another lifetime. "You should be proud," Rachel said. "What you've accomplished is incredible." Simone knew Rachel was right. She had every reason to be proud. But part of her still carried the shame Brandon had poured into her, the voice that whispered she had only succeeded because of luck, that she was still somehow broken underneath all her achievements. The grocery store confrontation 2 weeks after that birthday party shattered the fragile peace Simone had constructed. Seeing Brandon's face, hearing his assumptions about her life, watching him realize the twins were his, it all ripped open carefully healed wounds. Driving home from Premier Market with her children in the back seat, Simone knew the war was just beginning. Brandon would not let this go. He would fight for control, for access, for the family he now realized he had abandoned. And this time, Simone would not be the broken woman who signed away her rights just to escape. This time she was ready to fight. The day after Simone discovered she was pregnant, she woke up with a strange clarity. She had spent months existing in a gray fog, going through motions without purpose. But the 2 pink lines changed something fundamental. She could not afford to drift anymore. 2 lives depended on her getting her act together. She started with small, manageable steps. Cleaning the apartment took 3 hours, but she scrubbed every surface until the space felt less suffocating. She organized her design files and reached out to previous clients, pitching new projects with renewed energy. She made lists of everything she needed to prepare for the babies, breaking overwhelming tasks into achievable chunks. The blog started as therapy. Simone sat at her second-hand laptop every evening and wrote about the surreal experience of preparing for motherhood alone. She wrote about the terror of not having enough money, the weird joy of feeling kicks from 2 babies simultaneously, and the complicated emotions of carrying her ex-husband's children while knowing he wanted nothing to do with her. "I thought my story was over when he left," she wrote in one of her first posts. Turns out it was just the prologue. The writing helped her process the chaos. But more than that, it connected her to other women living similar experiences. Comments rolled in from readers sharing their own stories of unexpected pregnancy after divorce, of rebuilding from betrayal, of discovering strength they did not know they possessed. A woman named Leslie commented regularly. She had been through a similar situation 5 years earlier and now ran a successful photography business. She offered practical advice about managing finances as a single mother and setting up business structures. Eventually, they moved their conversation to email, then to weekly phone calls. "You need to think of yourself as a business," Leslie advised. "You have skills people need. Your blog is proof you can connect with an audience. Monetize it." Simone researched blog monetization strategies. She learned about affiliate marketing and sponsored content. She reached out to baby product companies offering honest reviews in exchange for free products. The first time a check arrived for a sponsored post, $25, Simone cried with relief. That $25 became $50, then $100. Simone reinvested every cent into improving the blog. She bought a cheap camera to take better photos. She paid for a professional logo design. She learned basic SEO and watched her traffic grow steadily. At 5 months pregnant, she pitched herself as a social media consultant to a small local bakery struggling with their Instagram presence. She offered competitive rates and a portfolio of before and after samples. They hired her for a 3-month trial. Within 6 weeks, their follower count tripled and their weekend sales increased by 40%. The bakery owner referred her to a friend who owned a boutique. That client referred her to another. Simone's calendar filled with manageable projects that paid better than her graphic design work and required less intensive time commitments. She could work from her couch in pajamas while eating crackers to combat morning sickness. Her second trimester energy surge felt like a gift. Simone used it to build systems for her growing business. She created templates for client onboarding, standard packages with clear pricing, and contracts that protected her time and compensation. She opened a business bank account, keeping everything separate from her personal finances. The support group she joined became essential. Meeting other single mothers, hearing their strategies for managing childcare and career, gave Simone roadmaps she desperately needed. A woman named Kendra had 3 kids and ran a virtual assistant business. She shared her spreadsheets for tracking expenses and income, taught Simone about quarterly taxes, and explained how to set realistic rates. "Stop undercharging because you're grateful for work," Kendra said bluntly at one meeting. "Your time is valuable. Your skills are valuable. Charge what you're worth." Simone raised her rates and waited for clients to disappear. Instead, new clients came. Better clients who respected her expertise and paid on time. She learned that confidence and clear communication attracted the right kind of work. Finding the 2-bedroom apartment felt like winning the lottery. It was twice what she was paying but still within budget thanks to her growing income. The neighborhood had good schools for when the twins were older. The building had a small playground. There was even laundry on site instead of the laundromat blocks away. Moving while 7 months pregnant was not advisable, but Rachel and the support group rallied. 5 women showed up with trucks and boxes. They packed everything, moved it, and unpacked the essentials. Tanya set up the nursery while Simone directed from a chair, unable to do much physical labor. "You're building a village," Tanya said, arranging stuffed animals in the cribs. "These babies are going to have so much love." Setting up the nursery brought unexpected emotions. Simone stood in the doorway looking at 2 cribs, a changing table she found on sale, and bins of baby clothes from the support group's hand-me-down exchange. This was real. In weeks, she would bring 2 babies home to this room. She took photos of the space and wrote a blog post about creating a nursery on a budget. The post included links to all the products she used, most of them affiliate links. That single post generated $300 in commissions. Simone stared at the number in disbelief. $300 for sharing her experience. The financial pressure started to ease. Not disappear, but ease. She had 3 months of expenses saved. Her client roster was full. Sponsors were increasingly interested in partnerships. She even had a wait list for new clients, something she never imagined possible. But with financial security came new anxieties. What if she could not manage work and newborn twins? What if clients left when she took time off after birth? What if her success was temporary luck that would evaporate? Simone created backup plans. She trained a colleague to handle client emergencies during her recovery period. She wrote blog posts in advance to publish during her maternity leave. She automated her business processes as much as possible. She could not eliminate all risk, but she could minimize it. The last month of pregnancy was a strange combination of anticipation and dread. Simone wanted to meet her babies desperately. She also knew that their arrival would change everything about the life she had carefully constructed. She would have to figure out childcare, work schedules, and how to be present for her children while maintaining the business that supported them. She interviewed home daycare providers and nanny shares, trying to find affordable options for when she needed to return to work full-time. Everything cost more than she hoped. She joined waiting lists and calculated how long she could survive on savings before needing to resume regular income. The week before her due date, a major parenting brand reached out. They wanted her to be part of a campaign featuring diverse mothers succeeding in business. The contract was for 6 months with an option to renew. The payment would cover daycare for both twins for an entire year. Simone read the email 3 times, certain she was misunderstanding. But it was real. Someone at the brand had been following her blog for months and pitched her to their marketing team. They loved her authenticity and wanted to partner with her for sponsored content and social media promotion. She negotiated the terms from her hospital bed 2 days later, contractions 5 minutes apart, while Rachel drove and told her to focus on breathing. Simone sent the signed contract 20 minutes before they took her to surgery. It felt symbolic somehow, closing one deal while opening the most important chapter of her life. Holding Noah and Naomi for the first time, Simone felt the weight of responsibility settle over her like a blanket. These tiny humans depended entirely on her. She was their whole world. The thought was terrifying and amazing in equal measure. The first weeks home were survival mode. Simone functioned on 2-hour sleep cycles, moving mechanically through feedings and diaper changes. Everything hurt from the C-section recovery. She cried frequently from exhaustion and hormones and overwhelming love. But she kept going because there was no other option. Rachel stayed for the first week, handling laundry and dishes while Simone focused on the babies. The support group organized a meal train that delivered dinner every night for a month. Tanya came daily to check on everyone and offer the kind of reassurance only an experienced doula could provide. "You're doing great," Tanya said one afternoon when Simone was crying because she could not get both babies to sleep simultaneously. "This is normal. You're not failing. This is just really hard." Slowly, patterns emerged. The twins started sleeping longer stretches. Simone figured out how to nurse them both at once. She learned their different cries and needs. The fog lifted gradually, revealing a new version of her life that felt manageable. At 6 weeks postpartum, Simone started taking client calls again. Just a few hours a week while Rachel watched the twins. At 8 weeks she was back to part-time work. At 3 months she was working close to full-time hours on a flexible schedule built around naps and nighttime wake-ups. Her blog posts about managing business and newborn twins resonated deeply with her audience. Women shared her content, tagged friends, and reached out with their own questions. Simone started offering consulting specifically for mothers trying to build businesses while caring for young children. She created a course teaching her systems for time management, client communication, and building passive income streams. The first launch brought in $5,000. Simone stared at her bank balance and cried again, but this time from relief and disbelief. By the twins' first birthday, Simone had expanded beyond consultation into full-service social media management. She hired Kendra from the support group as her first employee. Then she brought on 2 more contractors. Her little blog had evolved into an actual agency with multiple revenue streams. She established her office when the twins were 18 months old. It was just a small space with 3 desks and a conference table, but having somewhere separate from home helped her set boundaries. She could close the office door at 5 and be fully present with Noah and Naomi without feeling guilty about unfinished work. The house purchase felt surreal. Simone walked through the empty rooms with the twins toddling beside her and thought about the apartment she had lived in 3 years earlier. The distance she had traveled was measurable in square footage and equity but also in confidence and purpose. She took a photo in the empty living room, Noah on one hip and Naomi on the other. The caption on her Instagram read, "3 years ago I had nothing. Today I have everything that matters." To anyone starting over from zero, it's possible. You're stronger than you think. The post got 30,000 likes and hundreds of comments from women sharing their own journeys. Brands reached out wanting to partner. Media outlets requested interviews. Simone's story had struck a nerve, offering hope to women who felt broken and defeated. Her agency focused exclusively on authentic brands that aligned with her values. She turned down lucrative offers from companies with problematic business practices. Making enough money gave her the luxury of being selective, of building a business that felt meaningful rather than just profitable. Simone hired a nanny 3 days a week so she could focus on high-level strategy without interruptions. Maria was a grandmother who had raised 4 kids and approached childcare with calm competence. Noah and Naomi loved her immediately. Simone trusted her completely. That trust allowed Simone to take her business to the next level. She pitched and won a contract with a national retailer to manage their social media presence. She brought on 2 more employees to handle the workload. She moved the agency to a larger office space. The twins' 3rd birthday party represented everything Simone had built. The park rental, the elaborate cake, the goodie bag stuffed with quality toys. She could afford these things without stress now. More importantly, she was present for all of it, not distracted by financial worry or scrambling to make ends meet. Standing in Premier Market 2 weeks later, watching Brandon's face as he realized those successful, healthy children were his, Simone felt a grim satisfaction. He had called her broken. He had said she would never have children. He had thrown away their marriage because he wanted a family she supposedly could not provide. And she had built everything without him. The family, the business, the life. She had done the impossible while he moved on to someone he thought was less defective. Now he knew the truth. And now Simone had to protect what she had built from the man who once destroyed her. The first thing Simone noticed about motherhood was how time became meaningless. Days blurred into nights. She fed babies while darkness turned to dawn, changed diapers at 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning without knowing which. Her whole world shrank to the space between two cribs. Noah was her loud one. He screamed when hungry, wet, tired, or bored. His lungs were impressive. Neighbors probably heard him through the walls. Simone learned to move fast when he started fussing, knowing he would escalate quickly. Naomi was quieter, more observant. She watched everything with serious dark eyes. When she cried, it was purposeful, never just for attention. She latched better for nursing, slept slightly longer stretches, and generally seemed to find the whole experience of being born less offensive than her brother. The C-section recovery was worse than Simone expected. The incision hurt constantly for the first week. She could not lift anything heavier than the babies. Standing up required careful maneuvering. Laughing, coughing, or sneezing brought sharp pain that made her gasp. Rachel moved in for 10 days, sleeping on the couch and handling everything that did not require breasts. She washed bottles, did laundry, made food Simone could eat one-handed, and took over diaper duties whenever possible. She also enforced rest, making Simone nap when the babies napped instead of trying to work. "The clients can wait," Rachel said firmly. "Your body needs to heal." The support group's meal train was a lifesaver. Every evening someone dropped off dinner in disposable containers. Casseroles, soups, pasta dishes, all easy to reheat and eat with one hand. Tanya came daily, checking Simone's incision, answering breastfeeding questions, and providing the reassurance that everything happening was normal. Nursing 2 babies simultaneously turned out to be possible but awkward. Simone used a twin nursing pillow that wrapped around her waist. She positioned one baby on each side, got them both latched, and then sat very still for 20 minutes while they ate. Her arms went numb. Her back ached. But it worked. The first time both babies slept for 4 consecutive hours, Simone woke in a panic thinking something was wrong. She stood over their cribs watching them breathe, convinced this could not be real. When they woke up hungry, she felt oddly relieved. At least the world made sense again. Her blog posts during those early weeks were raw and honest. She wrote about the physical pain of recovery, the emotional overwhelm of being solely responsible for 2 lives, and the strange joy that coexisted with exhaustion. She posted photos of her messy apartment, her unwashed hair, the spit-up stains on every shirt she owned. The vulnerability resonated with her readers. Comments flooded in from other mothers sharing their own struggles and victories. Women reached out asking specific questions about managing twins alone, about breastfeeding challenges, about navigating those early weeks. Simone answered when she could, creating a genuine community rather than just an audience. A journalist from a major parenting website contacted her when the twins were 3 weeks old. She had been following the blog and wanted to feature Simone's story. The article would reach millions of readers. It could change everything for Simone's business. Simone agreed to the interview but set clear boundaries. No photos of the babies' faces. No mention of the divorce details. The focus had to be on moving forward, not dwelling on the past. The journalist respected those terms. The article went live when Noah and Naomi were 5 weeks old. "Single mother builds successful business while preparing for twins," the headline read. It told Simone's story of going from divorced and broke to thriving entrepreneur. It highlighted her blog and agency, bringing an explosion of traffic. Simone's inbox flooded with opportunities. Brands wanted partnerships. Other websites requested guest posts. Podcasts asked for interviews. It was overwhelming and exciting in equal measure. She had to hire Leslie, her longtime phone mentor, to help manage the inquiries. "This is your moment," Leslie said. "But be selective. Say no to anything that doesn't align with your brand or values." Simone turned down more offers than she accepted. She only partnered with brands she actually used and believed in. She only wrote guest posts for platforms whose audiences matched hers. She protected her authenticity fiercely, knowing it was her most valuable asset. The money started flowing in at levels that shocked her. A single sponsored Instagram post paid what she used to make in a month of freelance design work. Affiliate commissions from blog posts brought steady passive income. The consulting business and social media management for clients added even more. When the twins were 2 months old, Simone opened a savings account for them. She set up automatic transfers every month. They would have college funds, she decided. They would have opportunities she never had. She was building something that would outlast her. Maria, the nanny, started when Noah and Naomi were 3 months old. Simone needed consistent childcare to take on more clients and focus on strategic work. She interviewed 7 candidates before meeting Maria, whose warm grandmotherly energy immediately put her at ease. "Babies need love and routine," Maria said during her interview. "I can provide both. You focus on your work and don't worry. They'll be safe and happy." Having Maria 3 days a week transformed everything. Simone could take client calls without babies crying in the background. She could focus on creating content without interruptions every 10 minutes. She could think strategically about growing her business instead of just surviving each day. The first day leaving the twins with Maria was emotionally difficult. Simone cried in her car before driving to the office. She called twice to check in. But when she returned 6 hours later, the apartment was clean, the babies were fed and happy, and Maria had detailed notes about their day. Simone could trust her. That was invaluable. Noah hit his first milestone at 4 months, rolling from back to front. Naomi followed 2 days later. They started laughing at 5 months, real belly laughs that made Simone's heart squeeze. They ate their first solid foods at 6 months, making faces at the rice cereal that Simone captured in videos. Every milestone felt significant because Simone was experiencing it without Brandon. She was the only one seeing these first moments. Part of her felt sad about that, knowing the twins would never have their father in these early memories. But mostly she felt protective. These were her moments with her children. Brandon had made his choice. She started dating when the twins were 7 months old. Nothing serious, just casual coffee dates when Maria was watching the kids. Simone needed adult conversation that was not about diapers or sleep schedules. She needed to remember who she was beyond being a mother and entrepreneur. The dates were fine. The men were fine. But none of them felt worth the complication of introducing someone into her carefully balanced life. She had limited time and energy. Spending it on mediocre romantic prospects seemed wasteful when she could be building her business or playing with her babies. Kendra joined the agency as Simone's first official employee when the twins were 8 months old. She had been doing contract work for months and the arrangement made sense for both of them. Kendra needed steady income with flexible hours. Simone needed reliable help from someone who understood the challenges of balancing business and motherhood. "We're going to build something special," Kendra said on her first official day. "I can feel it." Together they systematized the agency's operations. They created standard packages and pricing tiers. They developed a content calendar for Simone's personal brand. They built email sequences for lead nurture and client onboarding. The business became more professional, more scalable. 2 more contractors came on by the time the twins turned 1. The agency was handling 10 steady clients plus Simone's personal brand work. Revenue exceeded 6 figures annually. Simone paid herself a real salary for the first time, enough to cover expenses with room for savings and occasional splurges. The twins' first birthday party was small and intimate. Close friends from the support group, Simone's employees, and a few clients who had become friends. Noah and Naomi wore matching outfits and smashed cake into their hair. Simone stood behind her phone camera capturing every moment, tears running down her face. "You made it through the first year," Rachel said, hugging her tight. "The hardest year. You're amazing." Looking around at the life she had built, Simone felt something she had not felt in years. Pride. Genuine, uncomplicated pride in who she was and what she had accomplished. The woman Brandon divorced no longer existed. In her place was someone stronger, more capable, more confident. Simone started house hunting when the twins were 15 months old. The apartment was getting cramped. She needed more space, a yard where the kids could play, a neighborhood with good schools. She wanted stability and permanence, a place that felt like home rather than temporary shelter. The colonial house she found was perfect. 3 bedrooms, updated kitchen, fenced backyard with old trees. It needed some cosmetic work but nothing structural. The price was at the top of her budget but manageable. She made an offer and held her breath. When the seller accepted, Simone sat in her apartment office and cried. She owned a house. She had gone from having nothing to owning a house in less than 2 years. The impossibility of it overwhelmed her. Moving day brought the support group together again. They packed boxes, loaded trucks, and unpacked essentials while Simone directed traffic with a baby on each hip. Maria watched the twins in the new living room while everyone else worked. By evening, the basics were in place. Simone stood in the backyard that night after everyone left, watching the twins toddle around on grass. Their laughter carried on the evening breeze. This was hers. This house, this yard, this life. She had built it from nothing with no help from the man who promised to build a life with her. The nursery in the new house was twice the size of the old one. Simone painted it a soft blue, added blackout curtains for better sleep, and arranged the cribs side by side. The twins had their own bathroom across the hall. Simone's room was down the hall, giving everyone space. She set up a proper home office in the third bedroom. Desk, office chair, good lighting, storage for files. Having a door she could close for video calls felt luxurious. She could be professional during work hours and fully present as a mom outside those hours. The agency kept growing. By the time the twins were 2, Simone had 5 employees and 15 steady clients. She moved operations to a professional office space with a conference room for client meetings. She hired a business manager to handle finances and operations so she could focus on strategy and growth. Revenue hit $250,000 annually. Simone felt like she was living someone else's life. She had gone from barely making rent in a rundown apartment to running a successful agency and owning a home. Sometimes she still woke up expecting it all to disappear, convinced it was temporary luck. But it was not luck. It was hard work, smart decisions, and refusing to let Brandon's words define her. She was not broken. She had never been broken. She was exactly who she needed to be. The twins' 3rd birthday party at the park represented the culmination of everything Simone had built. She could afford the venue rental without stress. She bought quality decorations and an elaborate cake. She invited everyone who had supported her through the hardest years. Watching Noah and Naomi run around with frosting on their faces, Simone felt complete. This was the family Brandon said she could never have. This was the life he claimed she was incapable of building. And she had done it without him. Every moment of struggle, every sleepless night, every financial anxiety had led to this moment. She took a photo of the twins laughing together. She posted it on Instagram with the caption, "3 years ago I was told I would never have this. Today I have everything." The post got 50,000 likes. Simone's story had touched millions of people by then. She had become somewhat famous in the single mother community, a symbol of rebuilding and thriving after betrayal. But she never forgot where she started. She never forgot the woman crying in a tiny apartment convinced her life was over. That woman had given birth to this life. She deserved credit for refusing to quit when quitting would have been easier. Simone honored her by continuing to build, to grow, to prove that the ending Brandon wrote was just the middle of a much longer story. 2 weeks later, standing in Premier Market watching Brandon realize those children were his, Simone felt the weight of everything she had protected. He wanted back and now. He wanted to claim the family he walked away from. But Simone had not built this life for him to disrupt. She had built it despite him. And she would defend it with everything she had. By the time Noah and Naomi turned 3, Simone's agency had become a recognized name in the digital marketing space. What started as a blog about unexpected pregnancy had evolved into a full-service social media management company specializing in authentic brand storytelling for parent-focused businesses. The office space had expanded twice in 2 years. It now occupied an entire floor of a renovated building downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the space with natural light. Modern furniture and plants made it feel alive rather than corporate. Simone had insisted on a comfortable nursing room when they renovated, thinking about future employees who might need it. Her team had grown to 12 people. Kendra was now the operations director, managing day-to-day client work and team coordination. Leslie had joined full-time as the creative director, bringing her photography skills and years of business experience. The others were a mix of social media managers, content creators, and account coordinators. Simone focused on big-picture strategy, new business development, and maintaining her personal brand. She still wrote blog posts twice a week, sharing insights about business building, single parenthood, and the ongoing journey of healing from betrayal. Her authenticity remained her superpower. Readers trusted her because she never pretended life was perfect. The house she bought had appreciated significantly in value. The neighborhood was desirable and home prices kept climbing. Simone refinanced at a lower rate, cutting her monthly payment and building equity faster. She renovated the kitchen and bathrooms, hiring contractors who did quality work within budget. The backyard became the twins' kingdom. Simone installed a swing set and sandbox. She planted flowers along the fence and vegetables in raised beds. Noah and Naomi helped water the tomatoes and chase butterflies. Maria watched them play while Simone worked in her home office on days she did not go downtown. Financial security allowed Simone to make decisions based on values rather than desperation. She turned down a major contract with a formula company because she did not believe in their marketing practices. She donated percentage of profits to organizations supporting single mothers. She paid her employees well above market rate and offered generous benefits. The twins' college funds had grown substantially. Simone automated monthly contributions and invested conservatively for long-term growth. By the time Noah and Naomi turned 3, each account held over $50,000. They would have choices she never had. Education would not require crushing debt. Simone started public speaking when the twins were 2.5. She was invited to a women's entrepreneurship conference to share her story. Standing on stage looking at 200 faces felt terrifying and exhilarating. She talked about hitting rock bottom, about rebuilding from nothing, about refusing to accept other people's definitions of her worth. The standing ovation surprised her. Women approached afterward with tears in their eyes, sharing their own stories of divorce and starting over. Several handed her business cards wanting to work together. The conference organizer asked her to keynote their next event for double the speaking fee. Public speaking became another revenue stream. Simone spoke at business conferences, women's groups, and university classes. She charged substantial fees and donated half to single mother support organizations. The speaking engagements raised her profile and brought new clients to the agency. A literary agent reached out after seeing one of her keynote speeches online. She suggested Simone write a book about her journey. Publishers would be interested, she said. The single mother rebuilding narrative combined with business success had built-in audience appeal. Simone signed with the agent and started writing nights after the twins went to bed. The book was cathartic, forcing her to process experiences she had pushed aside while surviving. It wrote about the fertility struggles, the betrayal, the divorce, the unexpected pregnancy. She wrote about building a business while pregnant and navigating early motherhood alone. The working title was Unexpected Miracles, Building a Life from Broken Pieces. Simone wanted it to be practical as well as inspirational, including actual business strategies alongside personal narrative. She worked with a developmental editor to structure the content effectively. Her dating life remained casual and infrequent. Simone went out occasionally when Maria could watch the twins, but no one felt worth pursuing seriously. She was content with her life as it was. Romance seemed like something that might happen eventually but was not a priority. The twins were thriving. Noah was adventurous and loud, always climbing something or asking endless questions. Naomi was thoughtful and creative, spending hours drawing or building elaborate structures with blocks. They bickered like siblings but also protected each other fiercely. Simone could not imagine loving anything more than she loved them. Their preschool was expensive but excellent. Small class sizes, experienced teachers, play-based learning philosophy. Noah and Naomi came home dirty and happy, chattering about their friends and projects. They were learning social skills and independence in a safe environment. Simone volunteered for the preschool parent committee, organizing fundraisers and community events. She enjoyed connecting with other parents, building friendships beyond her business relationships. A few other single mothers became close friends, women who understood the unique challenges of solo parenting. The agency landed a major contract with a national retailer when the twins were 3.5. Managing their social media presence across multiple platforms required expanding the team and refining processes. It was the kind of high-profile client that attracted other major brands. The contract was worth low six figures annually. Simone moved the agency to a larger space again to accommodate growth. The new office had room for 20 employees and included a proper conference room for client presentations. She hired an interior designer to make it feel welcoming and professional. The agency's success was evident in every detail. Her personal investment portfolio had grown as well. Simone worked with a financial advisor to diversify her assets. Real estate, stocks, bonds, and a small amount in cryptocurrency. She wanted financial security that went beyond her business income. She wanted to know that even if the agency failed, her children would be provided for. She bought a small investment property when the twins were 3, a duplex in an up-and-coming neighborhood. She hired a property manager to handle tenants and maintenance. The rental income covered the mortgage and provided additional passive income. It was another layer of security, another way to build wealth. Simone's social media following had grown to nearly 1 million across platforms. Every post reached thousands of people. Brands paid premium rates for partnerships because her engagement was genuine. Her audience trusted her recommendations and followed her advice. She had become an influencer without trying to be one. The book deal came through when the twins were 3 and 2 months. A major publisher offered to advance and committed to serious marketing support. Simone would spend the next year finishing the manuscript while managing the agency and raising her children. The schedule was intense but manageable with Maria's help. She thought about Brandon occasionally, usually when people asked about the twins' father. She gave vague answers about being divorced and moving on. Most people were polite enough not to press for details. The few who knew the full story respected her privacy. Simone sometimes wondered if Brandon knew about her success. They had no mutual friends left really, but the internet made information accessible. Her company website featured her photo and bio. Her social media was public. He could have looked her up anytime. Whether he did remained a mystery. She had no interest in reaching out to him. That chapter was closed. Brandon had made his choice and Simone had built a completely separate life. She felt no lingering attachment, no desire for closure or reconciliation. He was simply irrelevant to her current existence. The twins' third birthday party at the park was elaborate because Simone could afford to make it special. She rented the pavilion, hired a face painter and balloon artist, bought a custom cake from the bakery that was her first social media client. 30 people showed up, friends and employees and their families. Watching Noah and Naomi blow out their candles while everyone sang, Simone felt overwhelmed with gratitude. 3 years earlier she had been alone and terrified. Now she was surrounded by people she loved, celebrating the children doctors said she probably could not have, running a business that exceeded her wildest dreams. "Make a wish, Mama," Naomi said, tugging her hand. Simone closed her eyes. She wished for continued health and happiness. She wished for her children to always feel loved and secure. She wished to never forget how far she had come or how much strength she possessed. 2 weeks later in Premier Market, that strength would be tested in ways she did not anticipate. But in that moment, surrounded by laughter and celebration, Simone felt untouchable. She had built something precious and powerful. She had proven everyone who doubted her completely wrong. Brandon had called her broken, incapable, defective. And she had turned that pain into purpose, that rejection into resilience. She was not the woman he divorced. She was someone entirely new, someone who had been forged in fire and come out stronger. The confrontation coming in the produce aisle would shake her carefully constructed peace. But it would not break her. Nothing could break her now. She had already survived the worst thing she could imagine and built paradise from the ashes. The ride home from Premier Market felt surreal. Simone's hands gripped the steering wheel tight while Noah and Naomi chatted happily in their car seats, oblivious to the earthquake that had just hit their mother's carefully ordered world. "Mama, pancakes," Noah chanted, bouncing in his seat. "Yes, baby. Pancakes." Simone's voice sounded normal somehow, even though her mind was racing through implications and possibilities. Brandon knew. After 3 years of building a life separate from him, he knew about the twins. And she had seen his face change from mockery to shock to something that looked like ownership. She pulled into her driveway and sat for a moment, looking at her beautiful house. Everything she had built suddenly felt fragile. Brandon was going to come for them. She knew it with bone-deep certainty. He would not let this go. He would lawyer up and demand paternity tests and push for custody rights. Her phone buzzed. "Rachel, are you okay? You texted about the store but didn't explain. Call me when you can." Simone had sent a brief message from the parking lot. Ran into Brandon. "He knows about the twins." Those simple words did not capture the complexity of what just happened. She would need to explain the full encounter to Rachel, to her lawyer, to everyone in her support network. First, pancakes. She unbuckled the twins and they ran inside, heading straight for the kitchen. Maria was off today, so it was just the 3 of them. Simone moved through the motions of making breakfast, mixing batter while the kids colored at the kitchen table. Normal activities grounded her. Her phone buzzed again. A known number. Then a text appeared. "We need to talk. This is Brandon. I got your number from your business website. Please don't ignore this. Those are my children." Simone deleted the message without responding. She would not engage directly. Everything from this point forward went through lawyers. She had learned enough about protecting herself to know that direct communication would only create problems. Another buzz. "I know you're angry, but I have rights. I deserve to know my kids. We can work this out like adults." Deleted. She blocked the number and made a mental note to remove her personal contact information from the business website. Only the general agency email should be public. Noah looked up from his coloring. "Mama sad?" "No, honey. Mama's fine." She smiled brightly, flipping a pancake. "Just thinking about work stuff." They ate breakfast while Simone ran through her mental checklist. Call her lawyer first thing Monday. Document everything about the encounter at the store. Inform her team that she might need to handle personal legal matters. Check if the preschool had protocols for unauthorized pickup attempts. Research custody law for non-custodial parents who abandon their children. After breakfast, Simone settled the twins with toys and called Rachel. "Tell me everything," Rachel demanded immediately. Simone recounted the encounter, from Brandon's initial mockery to his shock when he realized the twins were his biological children. She explained his assumption they were adopted, his demands for paternity tests, his insistence that he had rights. "That absolute trash human," Rachel said when Simone finished. "He walked away. He signed papers. He has no right to show up now and demand anything." "I know. But legally I'm not sure where I stand. He is their biological father. The divorce happened before I knew I was pregnant. I never terminated his parental rights because I never established them in the first place. You need to talk to your lawyer immediately. Like Monday morning first thing." "I will." Simone watched Noah and Naomi play, her heart aching. "I just wanted them to have an uncomplicated childhood. I wanted to protect them from all this mess." "You are protecting them. You've given them an amazing life. Brandon showing up doesn't change that." After hanging up, Simone spent the afternoon playing with the twins, pushing thoughts of Brandon aside. They went to the park, fed the ducks, got ice cream. Normal Saturday activities that felt precious now that she knew Brandon might try to disrupt everything. That night after the twins went to bed, Simone sat with her laptop and researched. She learned that establishing paternity in their state required either both parents signing an acknowledgement or a court order. She had never filed for child support, never listed Brandon as the father on birth certificates. The twins had her last name. Legally, Brandon was nobody to them. But he could petition for paternity testing. If proven to be their biological father, he could then petition for custody rights. The outcome would depend on multiple factors including abandonment during pregnancy, his current stability, and the children's best interests. Simone made notes. She would need to prove Brandon knew about her fertility struggles during their marriage. She would need to show his affair and the reasons for divorce. She would need to document 3 years of her raising the twins alone with no support from him. She would need character witnesses and financial records proving her capability as a parent. Her phone rang. A known number. She did not answer. A voicemail appeared. She listened on speaker, recording it with another device just in case. "Simone, it's Brandon. Please talk to me. I know you're upset, but you're being unreasonable. I have a right to know my children. If you don't respond, I'll have to get lawyers involved. I don't want this to get ugly, but you're leaving me no choice. Call me back." The entitlement in his voice made her blood boil. He called her unreasonable. He acted like she was keeping something from him that he had claims to. As if 3 years of abandonment meant nothing. As if his choices had no consequences. Simone forwarded the voicemail to her email for documentation. Then she texted her lawyer, explaining the situation briefly and requesting an emergency appointment Monday morning. Her lawyer responded within 10 minutes confirming a 9 a.m. meeting. Sunday passed in anxious anticipation. Simone kept her phone nearby, half expecting Brandon to show up at her house. She had no idea if he knew where she lived. He could probably find her address if he tried. The thought made her stomach churn. She distracted herself with the twins, baking cookies and watching movies. But part of her attention was always on the windows, watching for cars that did not belong in the neighborhood. She felt hunted in her own home. Monday morning, Simone dropped the twins at preschool early and headed to her lawyer's office. Patricia Chin was in her 50s, sharply dressed, and had a reputation for winning difficult custody cases. Simone had hired her years ago to handle the divorce, and Patricia had guided her through establishing her business properly too. "Tell me what happened," Patricia said, pen poised over her legal pad. Simone explained everything from the grocery store encounter to Brandon's subsequent texts and voicemail. Patricia listened without interrupting, taking detailed notes. "First, the good news. You have strong legal standing. He's not listed on birth certificates. He never established paternity. He had no contact with or knowledge of these children for 3 years. His abandonment of you during pregnancy, even unknowing pregnancy, shows character issues relevant to custody determinations. And the bad news? He can petition for paternity testing. If tests prove he's their biological father, which they will, he can then petition for custody rights. Courts generally favor parental rights absent abuse or severe neglect. The fact that he didn't know about them works in his favor because he can't be held responsible for abandoning children he didn't know existed." Simone's stomach dropped. "So he could get custody?" Unlikely. But he could get visitation rights, possibly even shared legal custody eventually. The court will consider multiple factors: the children's current stability, your role as primary caregiver, his reasons for wanting custody now, and both parents' ability to provide for the children's needs. What do I do? Patricia leaned back in her chair. We prepare for battle. I need complete documentation of your marriage, the divorce proceedings, your financial records showing sole support of the children, character witnesses, and anything showing his instability or unsuitability as a parent. We need to make the case that granting him access would disrupt the children's stable environment without providing significant benefit. He remarried. The woman he had an affair with, Candace. She might be pregnant. I saw her at the store and she looked several months along. Good. That shows his family is elsewhere. He's not pursuing this out of genuine interest in these specific children but out of ego or guilt. That helps our case. They spent 2 hours developing strategy. Patricia would file preemptive motions establishing Simone's sole custody and request that any paternity testing be done through court order only. She would argue that Brandon's sudden interest was disruptive and potentially harmful to the children's emotional well-being. Simone left the office feeling slightly less panicked. She had a plan. She had a strong lawyer. She had documentation and witnesses and 3 years of being an excellent mother. Brandon could not just walk in and take her children. But the uncertainty gnawed at her. Legal battles took time. They cost money. They created stress that would inevitably affect her work and her relationship with Noah and Naomi. Brandon was disrupting everything just by existing in her life again. At the office, Simone gathered her core team and explained the situation. Kendra, Leslie, and her business manager needed to know she might be distracted or need flexibility in the coming weeks. Whatever you need, Kendra said immediately. We've got this. You focus on protecting your family. Leslie hugged her tight. I went through a custody battle with my ex. It's hell, but you're strong. You'll get through this. Simone tried to focus on work but kept checking her phone. Patricia said Brandon would probably be served with their preemptive custody filing within 2 days. Then he would respond through his own lawyer. The legal dance would begin formally. That afternoon, Simone picked up the twins from preschool and told their teachers about the situation. She provided photos of Brandon and Candace with strict instructions that only Simone, Maria, or Rachel were authorized for pickup. The director assured her they would be vigilant. Days passed in tense anticipation. Brandon sent more texts from different numbers, each more demanding than the last. Simone documented them all but never responded. Patricia advised complete radio silence except through legal channels. A week after the grocery store encounter, Patricia called. He's lawyered up. We received his petition for paternity testing this morning. His lawyer is aggressive, making lots of noise about father's rights and his client's desire to be involved in his children's lives. What happens now? We respond with our motion for sole custody and argue against any access until full evaluation. But Simone, you need to prepare yourself. The court will almost certainly order paternity testing. It's routine and hard to fight. Once paternity is established, Brandon will have legal standing to request visitation. Even though he walked away? He'll argue he didn't know about them. The court won't punish him for not supporting children he had no knowledge of. I'm sorry. I know that's not fair, but it's reality. Simone felt her carefully constructed world cracking further. She had built everything alone. She had protected her children from the man who called her broken. And now the legal system might force her to share custody with him. That night, after the twins were asleep, Simone sat in her home office and cried. Not the hopeless tears from 3 years ago, but angry, frustrated tears. She had done everything right. She had built a successful business and raised happy children and created stability. Why was Brandon allowed to disrupt that? Her phone rang. Rachel, how are you holding up? I'm furious and scared and so angry I could scream. You're allowed to feel all of that. This is unfair. But remember, you've survived worse. You survived him calling you broken and walking away. You survived pregnancy and childbirth alone. You survived building a business from nothing. You're the strongest person I know. I don't feel strong. I feel like everything is falling apart. It's not falling apart. Brandon is creating chaos, but your foundation is solid. Your children love you. Your business is thriving. Your team supports you. He can't take those things away. After hanging up, Simone opened her laptop and started writing a blog post. She needed to process this, to channel the anger into something productive. She wrote about the complicated feelings of seeing an ex after years apart, about the fear of co-parenting with someone who once hurt you deeply, about protecting your children while navigating legal systems. She did not mention Brandon by name or provide identifying details. But she wrote from the heart about fighting for the family you built alone. The post resonated immediately. Comments flooded in from other women facing similar situations, offering support and sharing their own stories. The battle had officially begun. Brandon wanted in. Simone would defend her family with everything she had. The outcome was uncertain, but her resolve was absolute. She had not built this life to hand it over to the man who destroyed her. She would fight. And she would win. The paternity test was scheduled for 3 weeks after the grocery store encounter. Court ordered, conducted at a certified facility, results sent directly to both lawyers. Simone took the twins on a Wednesday morning, trying to make the experience as painless as possible. Noah cried when they swabbed his cheek. Naomi watched suspiciously but cooperated. The technician was gentle and quick. The whole thing took 15 minutes, but Simone felt like she had aged years. This was real now. Brandon's DNA would be compared to her children's DNA and the biological connection would be documented legally. "Mama, I want juice," Noah whimpered on the drive home. "We'll get juice and donuts," Simone promised. She would do anything to make this easier for them. They were too young to understand what was happening, but they sensed her anxiety. Results came back in 10 days. Brandon was confirmed as their biological father with 99.9% certainty. Patricia called immediately. "He's filed for emergency temporary visitation pending full custody evaluation. His lawyer claims the children need to meet their father as soon as possible." "Absolutely not." Simone's voice was steel. "They don't know him. They're 3 years old. I'm not handing them over to a stranger just because he shares DNA. I'm arguing exactly that. Judges usually side with gradual introduction in these situations, especially when children are this young. But you need to prepare for supervised visits eventually. The court will want to give him a chance to establish a relationship." Brandon's social media told an interesting story. Simone looked him up despite knowing it would hurt. His last post from 6 months ago showed him and Candace at some tropical resort. They looked happy. She was not visibly pregnant yet. There was no mention of Simone or the twins. She scrolled back further. Wedding photos from a year ago. Pictures of Brandon at company events and weekend trips. His life had moved on completely. He had built the fresh start he wanted. And now he wanted to insert himself back into her world as if 3 years of absence meant nothing. The hearing for temporary visitation was scheduled 2 months out. Patricia filed mountains of paperwork arguing against any access until a full psychological evaluation was completed for Brandon and family therapy was established. She submitted character witness statements from Rachel, members of the support group, and Simone's business partners. Simone's days became consumed with legal preparation while trying to maintain normalcy for the twins. She documented every aspect of their routine, their favorite foods, their bedtime rituals, their social development. She wanted the judge to see exactly what Brandon would be disrupting. Then things got messy in ways Simone did not expect. Brandon started showing up places. He appeared at the twins' preschool one afternoon, watching through the playground fence until teachers called security. He came to Simone's office building, trying to get past the lobby desk until security escorted him out. He sat in his car outside her house until neighbors called the police. "This is harassment," Patricia said when Simone reported the incidents. "Document everything. Dates, times, what he did and said. We're filing for a restraining order." "Will that hurt his custody case?" "It should. This behavior shows instability and disregard for boundaries. No judge wants to grant access to someone who's stalking the mother." The restraining order was granted temporarily. Brandon had to stay 500 feet from Simone's home, the twins' preschool, and her office. Violation meant arrest. It should have brought relief, but Simone only felt more anxious. Brandon was getting desperate. Desperate people were unpredictable. Then Candace showed up. Simone was leaving the office late one evening when a pregnant woman approached her in the parking garage. She recognized Candace immediately from that day in the grocery store. "I need to talk to you," Candace said. She was clearly pregnant now, maybe 7 months. She looked tired and stressed. "You shouldn't be here." Simone kept her keys clenched between her fingers, ready to use as a weapon if needed. "If Brandon sent you, it's a violation of the restraining order." "He didn't send me. He doesn't know I'm here." Candace wrung her hands. "Please, just 5 minutes." Against her better judgment, Simone stayed but kept distance between them. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand that this is killing him. Not knowing his children, being shut out. He made mistakes with you, huge mistakes. But these are his kids. Don't you think he deserves a chance to be their father? The audacity of it stole Simone's breath. You're asking me to have sympathy for the man who left me because he thought I was defective? The man who said I couldn't give him a family? He has a family, Candace. You're carrying it right now. That's different. Those twins are his firstborn children. His blood. He has rights. He signed away his rights when he divorced me and cut all ties. He got exactly what he asked for. Now he wants back in because he can't stand that I succeeded without him. Candace's face crumpled. You don't understand. Our marriage is falling apart because of this. He's obsessed with those kids. He barely even talks about our baby. It's like I'm invisible. He says he wasted 3 years not knowing he had children and he won't waste any more time. Something clicked in Simone's mind. He doesn't want me back, does he? This isn't about rekindling anything or co-parenting effectively. It's about control and ego. I don't know what it's about anymore. Tears ran down Candace's face. He's not the man I thought I married. He talks about getting custody, about fighting you for years if necessary. He's spending thousands on lawyers. He won't listen to reason. And I'm just supposed to accept that my husband's obsessed with his ex-wife's children while I'm pregnant with his baby. Simone should have felt sympathy, but all she felt was vindication. Brandon was destroying his new marriage the same way he destroyed their marriage. By choosing his own needs over his partner's, by becoming fixated on what he thought he deserved. I can't help you, Candace. My job is to protect my children, not manage Brandon's emotional issues or save your marriage. If you want advice, divorce him before he does more damage. He doesn't value you any more than he valued me. That's cold. That's reality. You participated in destroying my marriage. Now you get to live with who he really is. I'm done being collateral damage in Brandon's quest to prove he's a good person. Stay away from me and my children. Simone walked to her car, hands shaking with adrenaline. She called Patricia from her car before driving away, reporting the encounter. Patricia made notes and said she would include this in their documentation showing Brandon's destabilizing influence. 2 weeks later, Candace filed for divorce. It was in the public records. Patricia's paralegal caught it during routine monitoring of Brandon's information. The divorce filing cited irreconcilable differences and mentioned the pregnancy, requesting child support and medical coverage. This helps us, Patricia said. Brandon's life is falling apart. His marriage is ending. His finances will be strained by child support for the baby Candace is carrying. He's not demonstrating the stability courts like to see when granting custody to previously absent parents. The preliminary hearing finally arrived. Simone wore a conservative suit and minimal makeup. She sat next to Patricia in the courtroom while Brandon sat on the opposite side with his lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit who looked like he enjoyed fighting. Judge Morrison was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed the submitted materials before addressing both lawyers. This is a complicated situation. Mr. Brandon Walker filed for divorce from Ms. Simone Davis 3 years ago. The divorce was finalized with no mention of children because none existed at that time. Ms. Davis discovered she was pregnant approximately 4 months after the divorce was finalized. She chose not to inform Mr. Walker and has raised the children independently for 3 years. The judge looked directly at Simone. Ms. Davis, why did you choose not to inform Mr. Walker about his biological children? Simone stood, her voice steady despite her hammering heart. Your Honor, my ex-husband left me because he believed I could not have children. He said I was broken. He had an affair and served me divorce papers specifically stating he wanted no ongoing connection to me. He wanted to start fresh with someone who could give him a family. I was devastated and alone when I discovered I was pregnant. I made the decision that my children deserved better than a father who viewed their mother as defective and wanted nothing to do with her. But you denied him the choice to be involved. He made his choice, Your Honor. He chose to walk away completely. He got remarried and built a new life. I built mine. My children have never lacked for anything. They're happy, healthy, and thriving. I protected them from a man who proved he would abandon his family when things didn't go as he wanted. Brandon's lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client had no knowledge of these children. He cannot be held responsible for failing to support children he didn't know existed. Now that he knows, he wants to be involved in their lives. He has rights as their biological father. He also has responsibilities, Patricia countered. Mr. Walker's pattern of behavior shows instability. He destroyed his marriage to Ms. Davis through infidelity. He's now in the process of divorcing his second wife while she's pregnant with his child. He's violated a restraining order by sending his soon-to-be ex-wife to confront Ms. Davis. He's demonstrated obsessive behavior including stalking Ms. Davis and attempting to access the children's preschool. This is not a stable individual who should be granted unsupervised access to toddlers. The hearing lasted 2 hours. Both lawyers presented arguments and evidence. Simone testified about Brandon's statements during their marriage and divorce. Brandon testified about his desire to know his children and his regret about how things ended with Simone. Judge Morrison took it all in with an unreadable expression. Finally she spoke. I'm ordering a full custody evaluation to be conducted by a court-appointed psychologist. Both parents will participate in individual sessions. The children will be observed and assessed. We'll also require family therapy sessions to explore the potential for gradual introduction of Mr. Walker into the children's lives. Your Honor, Patricia stood. We request that any contact be supervised and gradual. These children don't know Mr. Walker. Forcing sudden contact could be traumatic. Agreed. Mr. Walker will not have unsupervised access pending the completion of the evaluation and therapy requirements. However, supervised visits will begin in 4 weeks, 2 hours per week in a neutral setting with a court-approved supervisor present. We reconvene in 6 months to review the evaluation and determine permanent custody arrangements. Simone felt like she had been punched. 2 hours a week with Brandon. Her babies would spend time with the man who called her broken, who abandoned their family. She wanted to scream that this was wrong, that blood relation did not automatically make someone a good parent. But the judge was standing, the hearing was over. Brandon looked triumphant across the courtroom. He had won access. Not full custody, not unsupervised time, but it was a crack in the wall Simone had built around her children. Outside the courthouse, Patricia tried to sound optimistic. We knew supervised visits were likely. It's actually a good outcome given the circumstances. He didn't get unsupervised access or overnight visits. We have 6 months to demonstrate that his involvement is disruptive and not beneficial. Focus on documenting everything during these supervised visits. Simone nodded numbly. She had to tell Noah and Naomi they would be meeting their biological father. She had to explain in age-appropriate terms why this stranger suddenly wanted to spend time with them. She had to watch her carefully built family structure get invaded by the man who destroyed her. That night, she sat in the twins' room watching them sleep. They looked so peaceful, so innocent. They had no idea their world was about to change. Simone had tried so hard to protect them from this exact situation. But the legal system did not care about her desire to shield them from their father's past behavior. It cared about biological rights and second chances. She would get through this. She had survived everything else Brandon threw at her. She would survive this too. But the anger simmered hot in her chest. Brandon had abandoned her at her lowest point. Now he wanted credit for being a father to children he never knew existed. The unfairness of it burned. The battle was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Simone would document every supervised visit, every interaction, every sign that Brandon's involvement was about his ego rather than genuine interest in his children. She would build an ironclad case for maintaining her sole custody. She would protect Noah and Naomi with everything she had. Brandon thought he won today. But he had no idea how fierce a mother could be when defending her children. He was about to find out. The custody evaluation process felt like having her life examined under a microscope. Simone met with Dr. Rebecca Martinez, the court-appointed psychologist, for 3 separate 2-hour sessions. They discussed her marriage to Brandon, the divorce, discovering her pregnancy, building her business and raising the twins alone. Dr. Martinez was thorough and non-judgmental. She asked difficult questions about Simone's decision to keep the pregnancy secret, about her current financial stability, about her dating life and support system. She asked about Simone's parents' deaths and whether that loss affected her parenting. Everything was fair game. Tell me about your relationship with the twins, Dr. Martinez said in their second session. They're my everything. Noah is wild and adventurous, always asking questions and testing boundaries. Naomi is quieter, more observant, incredibly creative. They balance each other. I try to give them structure and routine while also letting them explore and be kids. We read together every night, we have family dinners even though it's just the 3 of us, we go to the park most weekends. Simone paused. I know I'm not perfect. I work a lot. Sometimes I'm tired and short-tempered. But I love them with everything in me and I've built a stable, happy life for them. Dr. Martinez made notes. And why do you believe Brandon's involvement would be detrimental? Because he's proven he'll walk away when things get hard. He abandoned me during the worst period of my life because I couldn't give him what he wanted. What happens when parenting gets difficult? When the twins go through challenging phases? Will he stick around or disappear again? I don't want them to experience that rejection. The supervised visits started 4 weeks after the hearing. They took place at a family services center, a neutral location with trained supervisors and kid-friendly rooms. Simone brought Noah and Naomi the first time, her stomach in knots. Brandon was waiting in the designated room. He looked nervous, which was something. Simone knelt down to the twins' level. Remember how Mama told you there's someone who wants to meet you? This is Brandon. You're going to spend some time with him while I wait in the other room. Noah hid behind her leg. Naomi stared at Brandon with suspicious eyes. Neither twin showed any interest in approaching him. Hey guys, Brandon said with forced cheerfulness. I brought some toys. Do you like dinosaurs? Noah peeked out. I like trucks. I have trucks too. Come see. The supervisor, a kind woman named Janet, gently encouraged the twins to explore the toys. Simone kissed their foreheads and left the room, her heart aching. She sat in the waiting area where she could see through a one-way mirror, but the twins could not see her. Brandon tried too hard. He talked loudly, offered toy after toy, asked rapid-fire questions the twins did not know how to answer. They were polite but distant, treating him like any other adult stranger. After 40 minutes, Noah started asking for his mama. Janet tried to redirect him, but he got increasingly upset. I think that's enough for today, Janet said gently to Brandon. First visits are always challenging. Brandon looked frustrated but nodded. Simone was called back into the room. Noah ran to her immediately, wrapping his arms around her legs. Naomi followed more slowly but definitely sought comfort from her mother. They need time, Janet said to Brandon. This is new and scary for them. Be patient. In the car, Noah asked, Mama, who was that man? Simone had prepared for this question with her therapist's help. That's someone who's related to you. Like how you have Aunt Rachel and Grandma Maria. But you don't have to call him anything special. He's just Brandon. Do I have to see him again? Yes, honey. For a little while. But Mama's always nearby, okay? The second visit went slightly better. Brandon brought art supplies and the twins engaged more with the activity than with him. By the fourth visit, they tolerated his presence without anxiety but showed no particular affection. The supervisor's notes, which Patricia obtained, documented the twins' lukewarm response to Brandon. Meanwhile, Dr. Martinez observed one of the visits and met separately with Brandon. She also interviewed Maria, Rachel, and 3 of Simone's close friends. She visited Simone's home and observed her interacting with the twins in their natural environment. She reviewed financial records, work schedules, and medical histories. Brandon's evaluation was going poorly. Dr. Martinez's preliminary notes, which Patricia saw through legal channels, mentioned his defensive attitude, his inability to answer questions about the twins' current routine or preferences, and his fixation on his rights rather than the children's needs. His pending divorce from Candace was noted as evidence of instability. Then Brandon made a strategic error. He filed for modification of the custody arrangement, requesting overnight visits and expanded time. His lawyer argued that 2 hours per week was insufficient for building a meaningful relationship. Patricia was gleeful. He's jumping the gun. The evaluation isn't complete. He's demonstrating exactly the pushy, self-centered behavior we've been documenting. This actually helps us. The hearing for his modification request was scheduled for 4 months after the initial ruling. In the meantime, the supervised visits continued. Brandon's frustration was obvious. He complained to Janet that 2 hours was not enough time, that Simone was poisoning the children against him, that the system was biased toward mothers. Janet's official reports documented all of it. She noted that the children showed no signs of being coached against Brandon but simply did not have an attachment to him. She recommended against increasing visitation until Brandon demonstrated better understanding of age-appropriate interaction and reduced his demands. Simone's life became a careful balance. She maintained her business, spent quality time with the twins, prepared for legal proceedings, and tried not to let the stress show. Her team at the agency was incredible, covering for her when she needed to attend appointments or meetings with Patricia. The book she was writing became therapeutic. She poured her frustration and fear into chapters about protecting your children and navigating legal systems designed to favor biological rights over emotional bonds. Her editor called it powerful and authentic. Simone's blog following continued to grow. She wrote carefully about the custody battle without identifying details, focusing on the emotional aspects of fighting for your family. The support from her readers was overwhelming. Hundreds of women shared similar stories and offered encouragement. 6 months after the initial hearing, they returned to court for the full custody determination. Dr. Martinez had completed her evaluation. Her report was extensive, over 50 pages of observations, interviews, and professional recommendations. Judge Morrison reviewed the report before the hearing. When everyone was assembled in the courtroom, she addressed them directly. "I've read Dr. Martinez's comprehensive evaluation. It's clear that Ms. Davis has been an exemplary primary caregiver. The children are thriving in her care. They have consistent routines, strong emotional bonds with their mother, and a stable support system." Brandon's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Judge Morrison continued. "The report also notes that Mr. Walker has shown poor judgment in his interactions with the children. He's more focused on his rights than their needs. The children show no particular bond with him despite 6 months of supervised visits. Dr. Martinez recommends against expanding Mr. Walker's access at this time." "Your Honor," Brandon's lawyer stood, "my client has been diligent about attending all visits. He's complied with all court orders. He deserves the opportunity to build a relationship with his biological children. He abandoned their mother and any potential family during her pregnancy," Patricia countered. "He's shown a pattern of instability, including a pending divorce from his second wife. The children are secure and happy in their current arrangement. Disrupting that for forced bonding with a biological father they don't know serves no one except Mr. Walker's ego." Judge Morrison raised her hand for silence. "Here's my ruling. Primary physical and legal custody remains with Ms. Davis. Mr. Walker will continue supervised visitation at 2 hours per week for an additional 6 months. At that time, we'll review whether the children have developed any meaningful attachment. If not, visitation may be reduced to once per month. Mr. Walker's petition for overnight visits is denied." "Your Honor, that's..." Brandon's lawyer tried to object. "That's my ruling, counselor. Mr. Walker has legal rights as a biological father, which is why I'm maintaining supervised visitation. But the children's well-being takes precedence over his desire for expanded access. He has not demonstrated that his involvement benefits them in any meaningful way. If he wishes to build a relationship with these children, he needs to focus on their needs rather than his rights." The judge looked directly at Brandon. "Mr. Walker, I'm also issuing a protective order. You are not to approach Ms. Davis, her home, or her place of business outside of the supervised visitation schedule. You are not to contact her except through your attorneys. Any violation will result in suspension of visitation rights. Do you understand?" Brandon's jaw was tight. "Yes, Your Honor." "Good. This court is adjourned. We'll reconvene in 6 months for review." Outside the courthouse, Simone finally allowed herself to breathe. Patricia hugged her. That was a complete victory. He got nothing he asked for and was basically put on notice that his visitation could be reduced. "You should be proud. I just want it to be over. It might never be completely over. But you've established clear boundaries and demonstrated that his involvement is not beneficial. In 6 months, if the situation hasn't changed, we can petition to reduce visitation further." Simone went home and hugged her children tight. They had no idea their future had just been secured, that their mama had fought and won to keep their life stable. They just wanted to show her the pictures they drew with Maria and tell her about their day at preschool. That night, Simone's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "You turn my children against me. You're a vindictive woman who cares more about revenge than what's best for them. This isn't over." She forwarded it to Patricia, who responded immediately. "That's a violation of the protective order. I'm filing for contempt and suspension of visitation." Screenshot everything. Brandon's lawyer must have gotten to him quickly because an hour later, Simone received a formal apology through Patricia. Brandon claimed his phone had been compromised. The explanation was transparent nonsense, but Patricia advised letting it go unless it happened again. "We won," Patricia reminded her. "Don't let him provoke you into doing something that could be used against you." Over the next 6 months, Brandon's attendance at supervised visits became sporadic. He missed 2 appointments without notice. He showed up late to 3 others. Janet's reports noted his decreasing engagement with the twins and his obvious frustration with the constraints. Candace gave birth to a baby girl 3 months after the custody ruling. According to public records, she finalized her divorce from Brandon 2 months later. He now had child support obligations for the daughter he chose to have and visitation limitations for the children he never knew existed. His life was likely chaotic and expensive. Simone felt no satisfaction in his struggles. She just wanted him to leave her family alone. The supervised visits were disruptive even at 2 hours per week. The twins asked fewer questions about Brandon as time passed. He was becoming just a strange obligation in their lives, not a person they connected with. The 6-month review hearing was brief. Dr. Martinez's updated assessment noted minimal progress in Brandon's relationship with the twins and his inconsistent attendance. Judge Morrison reduced visitation to once per month, supervised, pending further review in 1 year. Brandon did not even argue. He looked defeated sitting next to his lawyer. When the hearing ended, he left quickly without attempting to approach Simone. "I think he's giving up," Patricia said. "The reality of parenting is harder than the fantasy. Now that he has another child who he's actually responsible for, these twins are becoming more burden than trophy." A year later, Brandon filed to terminate visitation voluntarily. His lawyer submitted a brief statement about Brandon focusing on his relationship with his daughter and acknowledging that the twins were thriving with their mother. He agreed to relinquish all parental rights. Simone read the filing in disbelief. "He's just walking away again. Is that what you want?" Patricia asked gently. "I want him to have never come back in the first place. But yes, if he's going to be inconsistent and half-hearted, it's better for the twins if he just leaves completely." The court granted Brandon's petition. His parental rights were terminated. He had no legal connection to Noah and Naomi anymore. Simone had sole custody with no visitation obligations. The chapter was finally, truly closed. She never told the twins details about Brandon being their biological father or about the custody battle. They were too young to understand and it did not matter. Maria was Grandma Maria. Rachel was Aunt Rachel. Simone was Mama. That was their family. Biology was irrelevant. On the day the final order came through, Simone took the twins to their favorite park. She pushed them on swings and caught them at the bottom of slides. She bought them ice cream and let them get messy. She photographed them laughing with chocolate on their faces. That night she posted the photo with a simple caption, "My family. My choice. My joy." The battle was over. Brandon was gone from their lives permanently. Simone had won not just legally but in every way that mattered. Her children were safe, stable, and surrounded by people who chose to love them. And she had proven to herself that she was strong enough to protect what she built, no matter who tried to take it away. 2 years after Brandon walked away for the second and final time, Simone stood on the stage of a major business conference as the keynote speaker. Her book, Unexpected Miracles, had been on bestseller lists for 6 months. Her agency now had 25 employees and offices in 2 cities. She was exactly where she never imagined she would be. "I want to tell you about rock bottom," she said into the microphone, looking at the 1,000 faces in the audience. 3 years ago, I sat in a tiny apartment convinced my life was over. I was divorced, broke, and pregnant with twins I had been told I probably could not conceive. The man who promised to build a life with me had called me broken and walked away. The audience was silent, attentive. Simone had learned how to command a room, how to share vulnerability while maintaining strength. "Here's what I learned from that experience. Other people's assessments of your worth are opinions, not facts. Being told you're incapable does not make you incapable. Being abandoned does not mean you're unlovable. Hitting bottom means the only direction left is up, and sometimes that's exactly the perspective shift you need." She talked about building her business, about the support system that carried her through the hardest days, about choosing to protect her children from a father who proved himself unreliable. She talked about the legal battle and ultimate victory. She was careful not to paint Brandon as a villain but as someone who made choices that had consequences. "Today my children are 5 years old and thriving. My business exceeds my wildest projections. I own my home. I have financial security. And most importantly, I know my worth is not determined by someone else's inability to see it." The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Women approached afterward with tears in their eyes, sharing their own stories of rebuilding after betrayal. Several handed her business cards wanting to work with her agency. A literary agent asked about her second book. Simone's life had become more than she ever dreamed possible. The agency had expanded beyond social media management into full-service brand development. They worked with major companies while maintaining focus on authentic storytelling. Her team was diverse, talented, and loyal. Noah and Naomi were in kindergarten now, reading simple books and writing shaky letters. Noah wanted to be a paleontologist or astronaut, changing his mind weekly. Naomi loved art and music, spending hours drawing elaborate pictures or making up songs. They were funny, smart, kind kids who had never known instability. Simone had started dating seriously for the first time since the divorce. His name was James, and he was a divorced father of two who understood the complexities of co-parenting and blended families. He was patient, funny, and genuinely good with Noah and Naomi. They had been seeing each other for 6 months, taking things slowly but building something real. James knew about Brandon, about the custody battle, about everything Simone had been through. He never tried to compete with her independence or make himself necessary. He simply showed up consistently, proving through actions that not all men disappeared when things got complicated. "I like him," Rachel said one evening while they watched the kids play at the park. "He's good for you. You seem lighter around him." "I'm terrified," Simone admitted. "What if I'm wrong about him? What if he's just good at hiding who he really is like Brandon was? Brandon showed you exactly who he was. You just didn't want to see it at the time. James has shown you nothing but respect and consistency for 6 months. Trust your instincts." Simone had started therapy 2 years earlier, processing the trauma of her marriage and divorce. Dr. Williams helped her understand that her hypervigilance made sense given what she experienced, but she could not let past betrayal prevent future happiness. Learning to trust again was active work, not something that just happened. The agency's success allowed Simone to be selective about projects and create boundaries around her time. She worked 3 full days in the office and 2 partial days from home. She never missed school events or pediatrician appointments. She had learned to delegate effectively and trust her team. Kendra had become the agency's operations director and Simone's closest business confidant. Leslie headed the creative department, bringing her artistic vision to every project. The team culture was collaborative rather than competitive, supportive rather than cutthroat. Several employees were single mothers themselves, and Simone built policies around flexibility and work-life balance. The house had appreciated significantly in value. Simone refinanced again, pulling out equity to invest in a second rental property. Her investment portfolio was diversified and growing. The twins' college funds were fully funded with surplus continuing to accumulate. Financial security was no longer a hope but a reality. She thought about Brandon occasionally, usually when someone asked about the twins' father. She gave simple, honest answers. "Their biological father is not involved. We have a wonderful chosen family and that's what matters." Most people respected that response and did not press for details. Through mutual acquaintances, she knew Brandon had moved to a different state for a job opportunity. His daughter with Candace was almost 3. He was apparently dating someone new. His life had moved on completely, just as Simone's had. They existed in separate worlds with no connection except shared DNA with 2 children who did not know him. Simone harbored no ill will toward him anymore. The anger had faded years ago, replaced by indifference. Brandon was simply irrelevant to her current existence. She had built something beautiful from the ruins he created, and that was enough. Her second book was in development, focused specifically on entrepreneurship for single mothers. It included practical advice about business structures, time management, childcare solutions, and building support networks. Several publishers were competing for it based on the success of her first book. She had become a voice in the single mother community, an advocate for women rebuilding after divorce or unexpected pregnancy. She spoke regularly at conferences, wrote op-eds for major publications, and consulted with organizations supporting single-parent families. Her platform gave her opportunities to create real change. The twins' 5th birthday party was at a roller skating rink, chaos and joy in equal measure. 20 kids from their kindergarten class came, plus adult friends and Simone's employees. James helped coordinate games and made sure every kid felt included. Rachel documented everything with her phone camera. Maria supervised food and kept track of gifts. Watching Noah and Naomi skate in wobbly circles, holding hands and laughing, Simone felt overwhelming gratitude. These children almost did not exist. If she had gotten pregnant during her marriage to Brandon, would he have stayed? Would he have been a present father? She would never know, and it did not matter. This version of her life, built in the aftermath of betrayal and abandonment, was better than anything she imagined in her marriage. She was stronger, more capable, more confident. Her children had a mother who proved that resilience was real and that single parenthood could be joyful rather than tragic. James pulled her aside during the party. "I want to talk to you about something serious." Simone's stomach dropped. Here it came. The moment he decided it was too complicated, too much baggage, too exhausting to date a woman with twins and a demanding career. "I've been thinking about our future," James continued. "I know we're taking things slow and I respect that. But I want you to know I'm serious about this. About us. About your kids. I'm not going anywhere unless you tell me to." Relief washed through her. "I want this too. I'm just scared of making another mistake. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'm not Brandon. I'm not going to walk away when things get hard. I'm here for the long term if you want me to be. They kissed, brief and sweet, surrounded by screaming children and happy birthday decorations. It felt right. Not perfect or fairy tale magical, but real and solid and built on honest foundation. That night after the twins were asleep, Simone sat in her home office and pulled out the letter she had written to Brandon years ago. She read through it, remembering the pain and anger that had fueled those words. Then she tore it into small pieces and threw it away. She did not need to tell Brandon anything anymore. She did not need his acknowledgement or apology. She had proven everything she needed to prove, to herself more than anyone else. The chapter was closed, the story complete. Her phone buzzed with an email notification. A brand wanted to partner with her for a year-long campaign. The contract was worth more than she made in her entire first year of business. She smiled and forwarded it to Kendra to review. Tomorrow's problem. Tonight she would just be present. Simone walked to the twins' room and stood in the doorway watching them sleep. Noah was sprawled across his bed, covers kicked off. Naomi was curled in a ball, clutching a stuffed rabbit. They were perfect and healthy in hers. I did it, she whispered into the darkness. I built exactly what we needed. And she had. Not the life she planned in her marriage to Brandon, but something better. Something earned through struggle and sacrifice and refusing to accept defeat. She was not the same woman Brandon divorced. That woman was weak and broken and dependent on his validation. This woman was a force. A successful entrepreneur, devoted mother, best-selling author, and respected speaker. This woman knew her worth and did not require anyone else's confirmation. This woman had taken the word broken and transformed it into rebuilt stronger. 5 years ago, Simone sat in a fertility specialist's office being told conception was unlikely. 3 years ago, Brandon called her defective and walked away. 2 years ago, he tried to force himself back into her life, claiming rights to children he abandoned. 1 year ago, he signed away those rights and disappeared. And today? Today, Simone stood at the pinnacle of a life she built from nothing. She had 2 healthy children, a thriving business, financial security, meaningful relationships, and the self-knowledge that she was capable of weathering any storm. The grocery store confrontation felt like ancient history now. That shocked look on Brandon's face when he realized the twins were his. His desperate attempts to insert himself into their lives. The legal battles and supervised visits. All of it had faded into background noise, footnotes in the much larger story of Simone's triumph. She thought about the woman she was at rock bottom, alone and pregnant and terrified. If she could go back and tell that woman anything, what would it be? You're going to make it. It's going to be hard, maybe the hardest thing you ever do. But you're stronger than you know. Those babies sleeping inside you? They're going to be your greatest joy and your biggest motivation. You're going to build something amazing. You're going to prove everyone wrong. You're going to be happy again. So hold on. Keep fighting. It's worth it. Simone pulled the twins' door almost closed, leaving it cracked the way they preferred. She walked to her bedroom, changed into pajamas, and climbed into bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. The agency had 3 client presentations scheduled. The twins had soccer practice. James was coming for dinner. Life was full and busy and sometimes overwhelming. But it was hers. Every messy, beautiful, hard-won piece of it belonged to her. Brandon had tried to write her story, to define her worth and capabilities. He had been wrong about all of it. Simone had taken the pen from his hand and written her own ending. And it was perfect. Not perfect in a fairy tale sense, but perfect in its authenticity. Perfect in the way hard-earned victories are perfect. Perfect in the knowledge that she had taken the worst thing that ever happened to her and transformed it into the catalyst for her greatest success. Outside her window, the city lights twinkled. Somewhere in another state, Brandon was living his separate life, probably never thinking about the woman he divorced or the children he briefly tried to claim. That was fine. Simone rarely thought about him either anymore. She was too busy living, building, growing, and proving every single day that the word broken never applied to her in the first place. She was not broken. She never had been. She was just a woman who needed to break free from someone who could not see her value. And now she saw it clearly. In her children's laughter, in her business's growth, in the authentic relationships she had cultivated, in the life she had built from absolutely nothing. Simone Davis was not the woman Brandon left behind. She was something infinitely better. She was the woman who survived, thrived, and proved that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. And she was living spectacularly.